Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So during these difficult times where prices are rising, it can be hard to get a pet without spending like hundreds of pounds. So in this video I will just be discussing how to keep the prices down and some kind of like if you can own a hamster on a budget kind of thing. Just a little disclaimer though before we get into the tips is that you can't just buy an animal if you are not in the financial situation to look after it in the long run. So if you don't have much money and you think, oh, I just want to get a little hamster because they're cheap, they're not. And just don't do it. Make sure you have the money in the long run. You don't know if they need the vet or anything like that. So just don't go and buy them on a whim. So tip number one is to buy things secondhand. So places like Gumtree, eBay and things like that will have secondhand cages, wheels, hides, everything pretty much that you will need for a hamster. So you can have a look on there and it will be obviously a lower price than if you bought everything brand new. But one thing to make sure you check is that there's no damage to the cage or wheel, so it won't be broken and it won't cause any problems and injuries with your hamster. And always make sure if you buy anything like hides or wooden products that you sanitize them first before giving it to your hamster. And make sure the cage is over the minimum in your country. So in the US that's 450 square inches, in the UK that's 620 square inches, and I think it's about 800 square inches in like Europe and things like that. But just make sure it's over your minimum in your country. Tip number two is to price match your items that you're looking at. So if you're looking online, there's many different sites. You have Amazon, Package Pets, Pets at Home on the online store, things like that. So you could be checking certain hides and wheels and toys and things like that against other sites and see which one has the best deal. The next tip is to buy cheaper alternatives. Now when I say this, I don't mean go out and buy really cheap, fragile trash, because you'll end up spending more by having to replace things that are really fragile and everything like that. You have to think of buying these items as investing in your hamster's happiness and well-being. So don't try and cut corners too much, because otherwise you could end up injuring them and things that you don't want to do. So what I mean is you can go to, I don't know, your normal kind of shop, Poundland, things like that, and you can find things like tea light holders, which are perfect water bowls, and things like dishes for the kitchen, like cooking dishes and things for sand baths instead of a labelled sand box, because if you go and search sandbox online it can be like nearly £20 for some of them, where you could just spend like a fiver on a little dish, a glass dish to put your sand in. And things like also buying children's play sand instead of labelled reptile sand, pet sand, because you get a bigger bag and it will last longer and it's cheaper. Tip number four is to DIY things. So if you are a crafty person and have all these tools, you might be able to make your own chamber hides, platforms, things like that. And if you aren't or don't label yourself as a crafty person, there are still many DIYs you can do which are really simple and easy to follow, and I'll link some in the description if you are interested. DIYing things could be as simple as getting a cardboard box and just cutting an entrance and exit hole as a hide, and that's it. Like, that's how easy some of them can be. Next is to buy in bulk. Now you may be a little bit confused thinking, well, that's gonna mean it's more money, but if you buy some things in bulk it will save you money in the long run. So things like bedding, sand, whimsies as well, if you have multiple hamsters or have a hamster that really loves whimsies. Some places like Amazon even do the subscribe and save. So with what I used to do when I used KT is that I did the subscribe and save. So you click on it and then you say how often you want it sent to you, and it gives you a bit of like money off each bale of it, which was helpful. And one thing though to keep in mind is that be careful when buying food in bulk, because you don't want it going off or getting like attracting mites and slugs and things like that. So you just got to be a bit more mindful when it comes to buying food in bulk. Tip number 6 is to look out for sales. So some shops will have sales and discounts, like seasonal end of summer sales for example, or every now and then they'll have like 25% off or have little discount coupon things if you spend certain amounts. So if you look out for those, you can, again, it'll help when you buy in bulk things like bedding, so that it will reduce your overall cost. Finally, this isn't really a tip, it's more of a helpful thing to know, is to keep a jar or open a savings account and keep adding a bit of money. If you have a bit of change, put it in the jar, or just every month add a certain amount of money to that saving account as a vet's fund or vet's float kind of thing, so that if your hamster has a medical emergency and has to go to the vets, then you have a little bit put aside that you know you can use to help pay the costs. Remember, if your hamster does become ill, they will have to see an exotic vet. What I mean by that is a vet that is knowledgeable on hamsters. There's no getting around vets, it has to happen if they are ill. So just keep this in mind before purchasing a hamster, that you will most likely have to take them to the vets at least once. But you can do things like daily or weekly checks on your hamster to make sure that everything's okay, and this will help prevent anything serious from going undiagnosed and things like that. So what I mean by checkups that you can do at home is where you can pick them up by the scruff, and there's a proper way on how to do that, so I'll link Munchie's video in the description about how to do a health checkup on your hamster. And you can have a look at their belly, their teeth, eyes, everything like that. And then you can also weigh them weekly so that you can see if they've dropped any weight or dramatic amount of weight, because that is the most easy sign to see if your hamster isn't well, if they drop quite a bit of weight. And like, this is why I don't recommend doing weighing every day, because their weight will fluctuate just like humans. But every week just keep a log of their weight. I hope you all enjoyed today's video and it was helpful for you, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!